The vampire, a creature of shadow, a whisper in the dark. For centuries it has haunted our nightmares, its form shifting across cultures, yet its chilling essence remains. The dread it inspires is primal, a fear as ancient as humanity's first glimpse into the night. Hidden deep within an obscure archive lies case file C04002. Its secrets, long kept, are now unsealed. Why does the vampire hold such a grip on our minds? Is it fear of death or something deeper? Tonight we begin our descent into the heart of this ancient haunting. Blood. It is the essence of life and at the heart of the vampire myth, a chilling truth recognized across cultures. The idea of a being that survives by draining blood is deeply disturbing, a violation of nature's cycle. These legends are not just about hunger, but about stolen power and the seductive, terrifying promise of immortality. Yet eternal life is a curse, an endless, lonely existence. These tales have evolved, echoing in modern anxieties and conspiracies. Our mission to separate myth from truth and uncover the origins of these enduring, haunting stories. Long before European vampires, Mesopotamia's Ecchimu haunted the living. Restless souls denied proper burial, wandering between worlds. These spirits, described in cuneiform, drained life from the living, their hunger born from neglect and unfinished rites. The Ecchimu's legend shaped law, ritual and daily life, reminding all that the dead, if forgotten, could return as warnings from the shadows. In ancient Greece, the vrikolakas haunted the living, a corpse risen from the grave, knocking on doors at night, spreading fear among neighbours and kin. Greeks believed improper burial could unleash such horrors, so rituals became elaborate. Coins on eyes, libations and sacred rites. The vrikolakas embodied the fear that the grave was never truly final. The undead haunt not just the West, but the East as well. In ancient China, the Jiangshi, pale, stiff and hopping, was feared for draining the living's vital energy. Legends blamed improper burials and restless spirits. Rituals, talismans and charms protected the living. East and West, the restless dead remind us the boundary between life and death is never certain. As centuries passed, the fear of the undead only grew more urgent and more visceral, especially when the world was gripped by plague and sudden unexplained death. From the Black Death in medieval Europe to smaller outbreaks in isolated villages, disease swept the land, leaving confusion, dread, and bodies that didn't always decay as expected. When villagers unearthed corpses that seemed fresh, with blood at the lips or nails that had grown in death, panic spread. The line between a natural corpse and a supernatural predator blurred. Premature burial was a real, ever-present horror. Without modern medicine, it was easy to mistake a comatose or deeply ill person for dead. Some awoke in their coffins, scratching at the lids in vain. When later exhumed, these grisly discoveries, bloodied fingers, torn shrouds, were interpreted as evidence of vampirism, not tragic error. The terror of burial alive and the anxiety of the undead became intertwined, feeding each other in a vicious cycle. To protect themselves, communities developed elaborate anti-vampire measures: iron stakes, garlic, bricks stuffed in the mouths of the dead, or even decapitation. All were desperate attempts to keep the grave sealed and the soul at peace. Ossuaries and charnel houses filled with bones became haunting reminders of the thin line between rest and unrest. The rituals were grim, but they offered a small comfort, some control, however fleeting, over the chaos death brought. It was in these shadows of mass fear, disease and half-buried corpses that the modern image of the vampire was truly born. The undead became not just myth or warning, but a scapegoat, an explanation for every horror that could not be cured or understood. Out of this darkness, the vampire myth grew strong roots, ready to burst into the full-blown panic that would seize Europe in the centuries to come. The vampire legend truly took root in Europe during the 17th and 18th centuries, erupting in the isolated villages of Eastern and Southeastern Europe, places like Serbia and Wallachia. Here, vampire was not just a word, but a terrifying reality. Urgent reports of the dead rising to torment the living, spreading panic and death. Life in these remote regions was harsh and uncertain, with superstition filling the gaps left by war, famine and plague. Early accounts described vampires as monstrous, bloated corpses, recognizable yet hideously transformed, preying on their own families and neighbors. These chilling stories, documented by travelers and officials, painted a picture of communities gripped by fear, resorting to desperate measures to protect themselves. The vampire became a symbol of death's uncertainty, a physical manifestation of the community's deepest anxieties. The vampire panic spread like wildfire, fueled by clusters of mysterious deaths within families and villages. When illness struck repeatedly, suspicion quickly turned to the recently deceased, believed to be returning from the grave. Fear and paranoia led to accusations, exhumations, and brutal rituals as communities sought to end the terror. Local authorities, often powerless, sometimes sanctioned these acts, further legitimizing the hysteria. Tales of vampire attacks traveled with soldiers and merchants, amplifying the panic across Europe. The fear was contagious. No one felt safe from the revenant's grasp. Reports of vampiric activity reached imperial officials who launched investigations into the chaos disrupting their territories. Exhumations became grim spectacles, with villagers searching for corpses that defied natural decay, bloated, blooded and seemingly alive. Famous cases like Arnold Paole and Peter Plagojevich, witnessed by military surgeons, gave the panic a disturbing credibility. Once a body was declared a vampire, communities performed ritualistic remedies, staking, decapitation or burning. These acts were seen as necessary to restore peace and safety. The vampire panic left a trail of fear and a new mythology across Europe. Sensational reports of vampires soon reached Western Europe, captivating readers with tales of exhumations and undead horrors. Intellectuals debated the stories, some dismissing them as superstition, others seeking rational explanations for the phenomena. Treatises like Dom Augustin Calmet's collected and analysed these accounts, blending folklore with Enlightenment inquiry. The vampire's image solidified, a corporeal monster rising from the grave, defined by nocturnal attacks and gruesome destruction rituals. The panic faded, but the vampire was now a fixture in the Western imagination, ready for transformation. The stage was set for the vampire's next evolution, from rural terror to literary legend. As the panic subsided, the vampire was reborn in literature. No longer just a peasant revenant, but a figure of fascination for poets and novelists. The Gothic era transformed the vampire into a metaphor for forbidden desires, disease, and the unknown. Writers gave the undead a voice, a motive, and a tragic allure, exploring themes of power, longing, and isolation. The literary vampire evolved from mindless monster to complex character, inching closer to the heart of Western imagination. Each new story paved the way for the vampire's enduring legacy. The monster had found its muse. The leap from folk horror to literary legend began in 1816 at Villa Diodati, where John Polidori's The Vampire introduced the aristocratic, seductive Lord Ruthven. Sheridan Le Fanu's Carmilla followed, blending horror and desire with the first female vampire protagonist. Bram Stoker's Dracula cemented the vampire's place in culture. A nobleman, monster, and tragic exile, fusing old superstitions with modern fears. These works transformed the vampire into an enduring symbol, aristocratic, alluring, cursed and tragic. The undead stepped from shadow into starlight, ready for new forms. The literary vampire was here to stay. With the publication of Dracula, the vampire's journey from mindless corpse to complex character accelerated. Writers and playwrights became fascinated by the duality of the vampire, its capacity for both horror and heartbreak. No longer just a soulless predator, the vampire could now be a figure of suffering, regret, and even love. The monster was evolving into an anti-hero, a being who struggled against its own nature while captivating the imagination of its victims, and increasingly, its readers. In the early 20th century, this transformation exploded onto the stage and screen. The 1922 German film Nosferatu offered a ghastly, rat-like vampire in Count Orlok, more plague than prince. But soon, American and British adaptations would return to the suave, tragic model. Bela Lugosi's portrayal of Dracula in 1931 dripped with old-world charisma and dangerous allure, cementing the vampire as a symbol of erotic threat. The creature's fangs now gleamed as much with promise as with peril. As the decades passed, the vampire's inner life became the main attraction. Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire, published in 1976, gave readers Louis and Lestat, immortal beings tormented by guilt, pleasure, faith, and the endless quest for meaning. Rice's vampires were beautiful, philosophical, and deeply flawed, cursed to wander through centuries of history, love, and loss. The genre opened its arms to questions of identity, sexuality, and the cost of living forever. The vampire's curse became a metaphor for outsiderhood and longing. This era saw the vampire shift from pure villain to conflicted protagonist. The undead was now capable of redemption, romance, and rebellion. It could represent the darkness inside us all, and the possibility of choosing something different. The literary vampire had become a mirror, reflecting our changing fears and desires. By the late 20th and early 21st centuries, the literary vampire had, well, fully conquered the world of popular culture. No longer confined to novels and darkened theatres, the vampire seeped into every corner of media: television, comics, video games, and blockbuster films. Each new era remade the undead in its own image, sometimes monstrous, sometimes glamorous, but always irresistible. The 1990s and 2000s brought an explosion of vampire stories that spoke directly to the anxieties and desires of their time. Buffy the Vampire Slayer reimagined vampires as metaphors for high school trauma, addiction, and the pain of growing up. Twilight transformed the undead into sparkling objects of teenage obsession, blending the vampire's curse with notions of doomed first love. HBO's True Blood explored themes of prejudice, belonging, and sexuality, with vampires living openly among humans as the ultimate outsiders. The vampire's power in popular culture really lies in its endless adaptability. It feeds on our fears of disease, death, and the unknown, but also on our fantasies of power, beauty, and eternal love. Vampires can be villains or heroes, victims or predators, symbols of corruption or hope. Each new generation reinvents them for its own purposes. The monster that crawled from the grave has become an icon, a permanent presence in the collective imagination, forever changing, forever haunting. From muddy folklore to marble halls, from mindless hunger to tortured soul, the literary vampire is now immortal in the truest sense. Its story is never finished. With every new telling, the vampire rises again. The spectre of vampirism crossed the Atlantic, haunting even the rational communities of New England. In Exeter, Rhode Island, the Brown family was devastated by tuberculosis. As loved ones died, fear and folklore took hold. Townsfolk exhumed Mercy Brown's grave, finding her body strangely preserved. Convinced she was a vampire, they burned her heart and gave the ashes to her brother. The Mercy Brown case endures as a chilling testament to fear and folklore. Long before Mercy Brown, Europe was haunted by vampire terror. Among the most infamous cases was Arnold Paole, a Serbian hajduk in the 1720s. After claiming to cure himself of vampirism, Paole died in an accident. Soon villagers died mysteriously, and Paole was blamed. Officials exhumed his body, finding it undecomposed and bloody. The villagers staked his heart, but the terror continued. Arnold Paole's case became a cornerstone of vampire lore. In the grip of vampire hysteria, unexplained deaths turned grief into suspicion. Villagers, desperate for answers, exhumed graves by lantern light, searching for signs of vampirism, fresh bodies, blood or growing nails. These rituals, sanctioned by custom and authority, offered a sense of control over chaos. The brutal acts and chilling records that remain reveal a community's profound fear and the extreme measures taken to survive the terror of their own dead. When a corpse was suspected of being a vampire, communities performed brutal but ritualized acts, staking the heart, decapitation, or burning the body to ashes. Stakes of hawthorn or ash pinned the dead, while heads were sometimes buried far from the body. Burning the heart or corpse was seen as final. Holy water, crucifixes, and garlic reflected a blend of Christian and pagan beliefs. Many such cases were hidden, suppressed in records, or whispered in legend, dark secrets kept to protect the living from fear and judgment. The vampire did not die with the old world superstitions, it merely shed its skin. Today, new figures walk among us, claiming the ancient title, hidden in plain sight, living by codes that echo legendary hungers. They form subcultures, both fascinating and unsettling, in the shadows of our cities and online. Some, like sanguinarians, seek blood. Others, psi-vampires, crave energy. These modern vampires find belonging, power and identity in the darkness, an enduring myth, ever evolving. Whispers in high places, adrenochrome, cults and the elite thirst. The vampire myth has seeped into conspiracy theories, suggesting a hidden elite seeking unnatural vitality through sinister means. Tales of adrenochrome, secret societies and immortality cults paint a chilling picture, where power and depravity intertwine. Are these just modern myths, or do they hint at a darker truth? The archive offers no easy answers, only more unsettling questions. Section 3, The Eternal Grip, Secret Societies and the Price of Dominion. The allure of eternal life and power is woven into the vampire myth, often linked to secret societies. Throughout history, clandestine groups like the Rosicrucians and Illuminati are rumoured to guard esoteric knowledge and pursue power. The vampire becomes a symbol of hidden elite pursuits, feeding on society's lifeblood. The myth endures as a dark mirror, reflecting our fears of unseen power and the price of dominion. Porphyria and rabies, two rare diseases, may have inspired the vampire myth. Porphyria causes sunlight sensitivity, pale skin, and even fang-like teeth, echoing vampire legends. Rabies, meanwhile, brings aggression, biting and aversion to light, traits found in vampire lore. Hydrophobia and madness from rabies only deepened the fear, blurring the line between disease and legend. Tuberculosis, once called consumption, haunted families for centuries. Its victims grew pale and weak, often coughing blood, an image eerily similar to vampire lore. The disease spread quickly in close quarters, fueling fears that the dead preyed on the living. Blood at the mouth of corpses and misunderstood symptoms inspired chilling tales of vampires. In the shadows of sickness, the vampire myth was born. Garlic, mirrors and thresholds, these iconic defences against vampires are steeped in symbolism. Garlic's pungent scent was believed to ward off evil and disease. Mirrors, reflecting truth, expose the vampire's soullessness. Thresholds mark the sacred boundary between safety and danger, requiring invitation to cross. These objects, rooted in ancient belief, offered protection and a sense of control against the unknown, blending myth and reality in humanity's fight against darkness. The vampire myth refuses to fade into history's shadows. Its chilling whisper persists, echoing through every age. Why does this ancient dread still resonate within us? The vampire embodies our fear of the unknown, the outsider, and the threat of disease. Yet it also symbolizes forbidden longing and the seductive dream of immortality. This duality, terror and temptation, ensures the vampire's call endures. The vampire is an immortal fear, a shadow stretching across human history. It adapts, evolves and reflects the anxieties of every era. More than a monster, it is a mirror, showing our hidden desires, our fears, our fascination with power and the unknown. The vampire myth endures because it is infinitely adaptable, a living story we tell about ourselves. Its shadow lingers, an eternal reflection of our darkness.